Good evening, everybody. My name is Samir Mathur, and today I'm going to introduce the speaker for the day. Our speaker for the day is Mansi Thapa. You can see her screen there. Mansi is a strategic planner and thinker with 20 years experience in all verticals of IT, SDLC, information security, program management, operations, business processes, business excellence, or analytics. She has prestigious certifications like PMP and Six Sigma, ITIL, ISO 27001, and PSCI DSS certifications. She has experience across software transitions, ERP implementations, IT infrastructure, and she's worked on deployment of cyber and information security framework, user awareness trainings, GDPR. And she's also on the advisory board for X-Council's case certification and has bagged many awards in the information technology and security space. So I think she's a full package. She firmly believes in giving back to the community and has done numerous webinars, seminars, panel discussions, in addition to several projects for upliftment of women in IT and information security. Very good, Mansi. And Mansi has also put her own details there. So with that, I hand it over to Mansi. You have about 45 minutes, Mansi, for this, and then there will be some questions. And we try to normally finish by 8 p.m. Please carry on. Take over,
Great.
Mansi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for an amazing introduction, Samir. And thank you to FDPBI and all of you here to giving me this opportunity. I hope, this session adds some value to all of us today. So I will not take much of a time now that Samir has given a good introduction of that. I'll just add one thing that I'm also the supporting member for FDPPI. And recently I just completed the FDPPI privacy training as well, which had really helped me more in implementing a lot of other things which I've done in my organization. And so I'll just start with my presentation as well. So basically, going to today, see, I understand, Samir, that the audience which we are looking at today is that everybody understands the basic functionality and what privacy is all about and what privacy laws are. So my focus today will be that.
Yes, Mansi. Yes, Mansi.
Yeah. So my focus today will be that we are going to, discuss what we did, because what I feel is that 60-75% of your privacy journey in an organization, all the things are same. They are similar for all laws. So at least we started, like suppose PDPI is still under, scrutiny and it is about to come. But can we do something proactively so that we can at least kickstart it in our organization? So what we have done or what we have planned to do, that is what I'm going to touch base here. Okay. So before we start, I have a quick poll for all of you. I want you all to just give a thought to this, that in your organization, which team is primarily responsible for defining privacy compliance strategies? So what would you choose? Something like that. If you want, you can add your comments in the comment section.
Mansi, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. So basically, as you all are also saying, maybe a combination of above, or mostly when I do a session, I hear that people say IT or they say security or things like that. Okay, I'll just, tweak this question in a different way. So now who will be blamed if there is a privacy violation? This is something which is very important. And most of the people would say legal, or they'll say security people, or they'll say, yeah, most of you here also are replying the same thing. So here, this is what, these are the two slides I used to get the focus right in my organization, which you may also use. That this is what we know, this is the first tip of the day, that we need to make sure that everybody understands that it is not one department's responsibility to run privacy. It is a joint effort which has to be driven from the top. This was something which will really help you, rather than, knowing that, okay, this all needs to be done. First and foremost, we need to know that this is an organization-wide project which needs to be taken up. So, these slides will help you drive, or maybe you have some other kind of, things which can hit the mind of people so that they understand that this is something which needs to be driven from the organization top. So that's the first
मानसी
thing which we need to ensure.
मानसी
Yeah.
समीर है, आपका जो स्लाइड है ना वो राइट से कट हो रहा है, उसको आपको आई थिंक
Right.
साइज थोड़ा छोटा बड़ा करना पड़ेगा. राइट
अब
साइड
ठीक,
से कट हो रही है, राइट साइड. हाँ, नाउ इज बेटर. या नाउ इज फाइन. प्लीज कैरी ऑन,
yeah.
प्लीज कैरी ऑन.
वो आई थिंक वो उसका दिख रहा था, जूम का कुछ दिख रहा था इसलिए कट रहा था. Okay. Yeah, so basically first thing, as I said, that we need to have that buy-in from all the head of the departments, that privacy is their responsibility. Get the management buy-in. So what we did was, before kickstarting the project, we had a project plan in place. That see, this is a project plan, high level project plan, that these laws are coming in, or we already, we already have these laws which are already applicable to us, because GDPR was applicable to us, Singapore law was applicable to us, and PDP coming in. So this is the project plan, the high level project plan in place, that we need to get all the departments in, get the work done. Second, what we did was, for all the departments, which we know high level, right, that who are taking care of personal data, have an owner identified. See, the head of the department is the owner, but he cannot get into nitty-gritty of things, right? So from the department, he needs to give you a SPOC for the organization, that this is the person who will be handling privacy things from here. Whatever needs to be driven, whatever awareness trainings, whatever documents need to be filled, whatever steps need to be taken, whatever risk needs to be analyzed, he'll be your coordinator. Because see, here we need to understand the company is not going to give you a very big team to go and start, okay, these are 10 people, go and kickstart your privacy project. We need to build the team from inside, because they know where the data lies. They know, where they're hitting things which are important for privacy. So that was the second step we did. We had owners for all the departments, where at least we know that, personal data is getting touched upon. Of course, this is not a rocket science that you need to have an overall in charge who can be a privacy head, or it can be, the existing person who understands security and legal, maybe, and he's a senior level position who can do good reporting to the senior management, good to get the work done. So someone who heads this entire project. Next, which is very important, is that yes, that okay, now you have the resources in place. How we need to have some good trainings, which can kickstart them. I'm not saying that they need to be privacy experts, but at least they know the basic steps, what privacy is all about. So like FDPPI has got a very good course. So this kind of courses we need to look at, so that, and get that budget also in, so that we need people to be trained. Or if you have someone who is already a trained consultant on privacy, maybe that person conducts the training internally for the team, right? So these are the first, these are the, before we kickstart the project, these are some things which we should have in mind. So I've given you an example also here. If you can see, this is an example of the org chart which we created. So here you have, like it shows it in a very clear sense that it is driven from the top. That's why the directors are there. Then who are our advisories? Extended teams. So that's which I was telling you, that department heads and the SPOCs who have been there, they are responsible for driving the privacy project. Now the fourth thing, which is please let me know, okay, if I'm going very fast or something in between. I don't mind. We can, discuss it in detail wherever you want. Now, this is very important, where, every one of us need to focus on external parties. Mostly what happens is, when we are kickstarting a privacy project, we miss these people. Because, maybe like data centers. I'll take an example here, because now everything is very, very digital. So here I'll just spend 2 minutes for you to understand what data center compliance means for a privacy law. Suppose I have, put my servers on, I would say, controller's data center. And the data center person tells me that I am GDPR compliant, I am Singapore law compliant, I'm this compliant, that compliant, submits all the certificates. So now, me being a, security person, I would say, okay, very good. Everything is there. I think now I can host my servers here. No, that is what we need to look at. One is that the data center where you're hosting your services is compliant. That is one thing. But are you using any SaaS applications? By SaaS application, I mean, maybe you're using Office 365. Maybe you are using, some other vendor who's giving you software as a service, where you're storing your personal data. Data center is compliant, but is that vendor also compliant on which you are taking the application from? This is something which you really need to look at. You need to, what I have done is I have a questionnaire in place to know whether they are compliant on security laws or not. But That is what, just a data center being compliant is not the thing. So at least list down who are your external parties. If you have any SaaS vendors, list them down. If you have any vendors, logistics. Now maybe you are directly engaging with the customer on your websites, and then you are dispatching stuff to them, and you're using a third party logistics to do it. Are they storing your personal data anywhere? Because you are sharing invoice details with them. Then you need to make sure that they are compliant as well. So at least having this kind of an org chart in place for starting, see, it will keep on adding. I'm not saying that this is the final thing, but at least we need to have something documented. We need to start somewhere. So that is why this is an org chart which really helps us, and we keep on, reviewing it every 3 months with the departments, with everybody, and keep on adding, what all it is. So this is a very high level, and then it breaks down into Excels where you have, okay, logistic partners who are there, what kind of data they are looking at. So this is something which is to kickstart it. Okay. Now, why privacy laws are introduced? I think now I won't be spending so much time here, because you all know why they are there. But just I'll just put a one-liner that privacy laws have been introduced by the government so that they can protect us, who are their citizens. So I think ethically also it is a very good thing which happens to us. Yes, I know organizations need to have very big fines and very big legal problems they can get into where if they are found breached. But if you look at the other side, where we are as a citizen and our privacy is getting breached, how we feel. So I think that is a very good initiative which the countries are taking, that privacy laws should be implemented, which is a very good practice for citizens. And I really, vouch for it. And I've seen that even FDPPI and everybody here in the forum really, really wants that PDPI should also come in. So that is what I also feel. That is what is my sentiment as well. And here also, so I will not spend much what is considered as personal data. We all know this. I just had put this slide in so that maybe someone who has joined who has some doubt on personal data, because all the things which we are discussing here is on protection of personal data and privacy laws. So we should know at least broadly what personal data holds for. So it is, so basically one definition of personal data is that anything which can relate back to a person. Right? Can be name, phone number, username, IP location. Then it has some sensitive personal data, which is sexual orientation, health data, political opinion. So all the countries are saying that this kind of data should be protected. It should not be stored if it is not required. And please, if you want, you can put note of these three things. It should be protected. That is what all the law says. It should be only collected if you need it with a proper business and legal justification. That is what is all entire privacy law is all about. Collect what you need, store it safe, and delete it when not required. Those are the three principles. This entire, we always speak in security that CIA is the principle where everything on security revolves around, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. For privacy, these are the three things which I feel that if you keep that in mind and implement any project, you'll be successful. Yeah, so now we all know that there are different privacy laws and different rules. So like, where do I start? That is what the agenda is for today. So first and foremost, what we did was that if you are dealing with personal data and a lot of personal data, we need to find out. First step is that one is that you have now, your teams are there, your teams are trained, which we discussed earlier, that I'm not getting into. They are trained now, they are ready to work on your privacy. Now you have your Spocks in all the departments. Now what to do? So first thing which we did was at least document what information you hold and where do you hold it. That is very important. So there, what we did first was that we have developed you can put this in an Excel file. You can have an software where, you have that form created. You can even put it on paper. See, that is what this entire thing is all about. It's not about IT. It is about that I have a consolidated place where I know from all the departments where my personal data is residing, so that I can now take steps to mitigate the risk. What are there in those data, where it is kept? How can I protect it? Whether it is, it has legal grounds of processing, whether it has everything. All the risks can be discussed. All the good steps can be discussed. But if I don't know where to start, what will I do? So what we have done is, these are some of the fields which I have listed down for you, which we have put in our, we are right now collating it in Excel file. So entry date, of course, department, name of the system where you are recording it. Like, let's take an example. Now, suppose I'm sitting with HR. Now I'm sitting with HR person who is responsible for new joining. Now he needs to fill this form or she needs to fill this form. Now she'll put HR department, she'll say name of the system. Maybe I have an HRIS system. In HRIS directly I'm storing. I'm not storing anything on my machine. But if she's storing anything on paper form, she needs to add a record here that I'm doing it here. I have used the word controller here because we have mainly done it for GDPR, but you can, name it anything that, okay, whether it's residing with me, whether it's residing with any other processor who's opening the, there are some HR agencies which we work for. Maybe she puts the name there. Categories of personal data, like what all are you storing? Are you just storing name, place, and its address or something? Or are you taking a passport copy? What kind of copies are you taking? When we sat, we came to know that they are collecting 4 types of document proof. We cut them down and told them only 1 is required. Why 4? But the moment they will start putting it on paper or start putting it in an Excel, then only you can start taking decisions, right? What is the purpose of processing? And this is going to be your Bible if there is an audit which happens for any organization. Let's see, this is how we are maintaining this entire sheet. And periodically, every 3 months, we are reviewing this with all the department box. What is the purpose of processing? Categories of data subject, names of the processors, if there is a processor. Are you taking this data anywhere to, any other country? If it is a European data, are you getting back to India because my owner is sitting in India for reprocessing? If it is an Indian data, are you taking it anywhere to Europe because my global head sales is sitting there? So, these kind of questions start their mind rolling. At least you give the sheet to them, tell them, okay, do some meetings, sit with them for a week, do this. This is very important, retention period. They'll say, we do. Most of the people will tell you, we don't have a retention period, we don't delete it, right? So that clause should always be there. General description of any security controls are there or not. So once this data is there, I sat with the security person. In this case, it's me only, but I sat with my team to understand, okay, they are storing it in a shared folder, they are not storing it in their computers, but they are storing it in the shared folder. Are they password protecting the file? Are they, is that data encrypted on your server? Are you taking a backup? Where are you taking the backup? Who all have access to that backup? So these kind of questions come in, and then you need to put it there that, okay, these backups are taken by this person. This person is accountable. He's the IT administrator. So everything is there, but the data goes in, because in our case, the backup is all encrypted. The administrator cannot see it. So that's how we are securing it. So this Excel has beautifully helped us to, at least kickstart all the risk where personal data is concerned. Any doubts here on this page? Okay, so I'll proceed. So first thing which we thought was where my data is lying. Now, second thing which is important and which is there in all the privacy laws is explicit consent. Now, this is word which should always keep running in our minds, that what this means, and we should always keep this in mind. So whenever all the teams should be trained, that we have trained our software teams in software by design document, we have put that there, that if you are designing anything where explicit consent, where the consent needs to be taken for a customer, if you are storing any personal information. Explicit consent also we have broken down into 2 parts. One is the customer consent and one is your employee. So at least these 2 are there. More people handling personal data will definitely be there. But to start with, at least, these are my primary focus areas. My customer as well as my employee. How am I taking consent for their data? Okay. So first thing which hits us for customer is our website. So that is something we really need to look at. That on the website, let me just, take you there. 1 second. Yeah, so these are some of the guidelines which I have given for my website people. So first thing is your website, where your customer hits you, or any compliance, anything will happen there. Okay. So one thing is, which everybody has been telling, that the privacy notice should be there in very simple terms. One thing which you also need to look at where privacy notice is concerned, sit with your Marcom team or whosoever is handling your websites and see, are they using any third-party tools? They will 99% be using Google Analytics. They'll be using any FB and YouTube links where, you can go to your pages where FB and YouTubes are there. So these things, so you need to ensure that if they are working on your website and having any third-party bots or anything which is there, your privacy notice need to have links to that privacy. Like your privacy note should have Facebook privacy notice link there. These are very, very small things, but this will really kickstart the privacy project for you. So on the website, you need to make sure of that. Second is, as I said earlier, where is your website hosted? Is that data center as well as the person who's working on a website, are they GDPR compliant or are they other privacy law compliant? That you need to ensure. You need to ask these questions to them, that where are these websites located? Third, data subject, forms, I'll just discuss it later. Fourth is the data which they're storing. Whosoever is working, whether it's your internal development team who's working on personal data, or it is any third party who's working on your personal data, you need to ensure how they are complying with encryption. Maybe how are they, telling you, they will tell you that how am I ensuring that your personal data is safe in their database. Because if it's a SaaS application, you need to understand the database is not with you. They are maintaining the security for the database. So you need to ask them, how are you ensuring this personal data, these 5 fields are getting stored? Are you encrypting it? Who all have access to it? Are your people, who are working, have you signed a non-disclosure form with them? How are you ensuring that my personal data is safe? And if it is your internal company, then you need to sit with your security person, your database administrator, and need to know how it is being done. If you are holding credit card information, that is something then you need to see whether you need to be PCI DSS compliant, because in privacy, that is also very important. So it's not that you should know everything, but if you are holding credit card data, this is the first step you need to see what all norms you fall under for PCI DSS. Because if you are PCI DSS compliant, then you have a document to show to the auditor to see, this is how I'm ensuring my privacy for personal data. Okay, so these you can take a screenshot if you want. I'm not discussing everything here. Right, and now for employees. So for employees, what we did was that we did it because the problem is that there are some old employees who have joined before the privacy notice or privacy clauses came into our HR appointment letters. So for that, what we have done is we have put an employee privacy notice on our employee portal, because our appointment letter says that everything which is put on the portal, the employee needs to go and look at it. And we have sent a mail across to everybody saying that these are the legal grounds where we'll be processing your data. So that it is very clear that where all we are, hitting the personal data, so that they know. And secondly, what we did was, we are telling them where cross-border their data is getting, we are taking your data, if we are taking your data anywhere cross-border, sorry. We are telling you what is the retention policy we are taking for employees. And we are also telling the employees their rights. That if you want your data, if you want anything, if you have any grievance, you can write to my HR or you can write to a DPO at jackpot.com. So we have created these 2 email IDs as well for the employees. So that, see, now this shows that my intent is there to be compliant. Whenever, I think most of you are very senior to me here, but we have seen that whenever we are in an audit, one thing which needs to come across to the auditor is that we have an intent to be compliant. We don't want that. We don't want to hide anything. So these kind of things, these kind of documents, these kind of policies show that, we have that intent in place, that we are very concerned about our employee privacy and we want to take care of it. So this is what we did. And we're now, for employees, this is what, but for customers, I'll, add more things which we did, because that is very important. Like I said, like suppose now the third thing which we really need to look at is, right to request, update, delete explanation. This is something, again, this is the point number 3, which we really need to keep in mind when we are doing any kind of project for privacy. Any customer or any, any prospect customer, anybody can come to me and ask me that, please give me what information you have on me. Secondly, they can come and ask me that I want to, update my information. The information you have is not correct. Or they would ask you to delete the information. Or they can even ask you in a portable format, please give me this information. I want to, take it. But the kickstart privacy, the first thing which is there, how will the customer ask you? Have you created any norms where customer can come and ask you that this is what I need? So see, what happens is I did some pro bono exercise for some of my friends who are fellow CISO. They said that if I can review their privacy thing. So what came across was that everybody is waiting for IT to come up with some forms or something on the website where people can come and ask for information. And see, we all know projects get prioritized. They may say that it'll take you 3 months to, get that project in place. So I told them, why wait 3 months? So what I have done is, I put a data subject consent withdrawal form. I have put, this is kind of a format in PDF, in simple PDF. I put a section, we've named it GDPR. Now we are going to change it to privacy. So we have put all those forms there so that, again, the intent is clear that I want a data subject to come and contact me. So here I put in PDF format, I put all the forms. These are the forms like data subject consent form, consent withdrawal form, data subject access request procedure, so that they know what is the process, when will they get the data, when what they're asked for. Generally, it takes 45 days. We mentioned it there. Data subject access request form and data subject disclosure form. So at least these 5 forms, I put it on my website in a PDF where data subject, somebody asked me, you go there, you please do this, mail the form to privacy@jacko.com. It goes to the necessary person and we can action on it. We are not waiting for IT to come and do the changes. Yes, the project has been given, but the intent is clear. My intent is that at least some information is there on the website for any data subject or any, employee or any citizen to go and ask for information from me. I don't mind. Please come and ask me. These are the forms. This is the process. Please follow this process. So this is another thing which we have done on our website. Okay. Okay, now most of the organization will struggle with this. So this is a very lengthy thing which I've done, but I'll just share 2-3 points here. So here what I've done is now most of the people, because we were dealing in a lot of, EU customers and a lot of invites have been sent to, you all know, we do a lot of events where, for marketing, and a lot of customers, our prospect customers, we send a lot of data. So now it is a big challenge, because we need to ensure that we are compliant rather than just sending mailers. Anybody can complain for you, telling that I am not, opted for this. Why is this person invading my privacy, right? So what we have identified is these are the 6 places where a customer, information is with you. It can be your existing customer bank, which maybe, your sales representative has brought in from a different company. It can be that you have bought it. You purchase a lot of customer data where you want to send invites. Maybe you have purchased it. Third can be that, a lot of customers are coming and registering on your website for your newsletter. So that is kind of an audit trail you have, that this person is already, opted for this information, so I can send it to him. Fourth can be that your existing CRM, like maybe you have a sales management system where all your existing customers' data is there. So that data is with you. Maybe you're getting some referrals from your dealers, distributors, that these people are your prospect customers, there you should call them for the event. So these are there. Now, how do we handle this where privacy is concerned? Because we have to be proactive. We just can't, start sending mails out and then get into trouble. So what we did was that we developed some format for emails. So if this is an existing customer bank, so what we did was that first we called the customer. We told him that this is your reference, that, we had worked earlier with you and we want to send you an invite. We are doing this event. Are you interested? If he says yes, then only we send this across. And also in the email, we have our privacy policy attached. So he knows that where we are using this data, which we are collecting from him. Okay, I will not go in all these. If you want to take screenshots, you can. I'll just take a minute or two on that purchase. If you purchase the data from somewhere, purchase the data, how can you handle that? So what we did was, first and foremost, you need to ensure that the data you are taking from that company needs to be compliant with privacy laws, whichever privacy laws it's falling into. So what happens is that there are companies who are, they are compliant with privacy. So what they do is, before they share the data with you, They take the explicit consent of the customer and put that audit trail with them, that they have asked this customer that we'll be sharing this kind of data with a third party like Jaguar or any other company, and they are okay with it. So you need to take a sample check. You need to tell them to show, just take up a random employee or, oh, sorry, the random customer, whatever they have done. That is what we did. We took 5 of them. We told them, please show us the audit trail. And we checked by calling one of them that this is the company which you have taken the data from. You have given an explicit consent. Is it okay? They said yes. Then we use that data. So this has to be very clear. We cannot use this data now anywhere we want. It is not in any, if the privacy laws come in, most of the privacy laws will have this, that you cannot just go on sending mailers to whomsoever you want. Now, most of the people who are in privacy say that, our software should take care of it and stuff. I agree. Softwares are coming in place, but privacy is a new thing. Lot of new projects are being created, but why to wait for it? We have things in place. We can do it half, in a hybrid mode as well. So that is what we did. In the email itself, we provided them with an unsubscribe button as well. That if they want, they can even unsubscribe with that button. But the thing to note here is explicit consent. Now, if I've mailed them that this is the invite, can I send you the invite? If that person doesn't reply back saying yes, you cannot think that this is okay. I have sent it, so my job is done. I can send whatever mailers I want. No, you need to have that audit trail with you. You need to have that, okay, on this date, any mechanism you can take. You can store that date in a database. You can have it, you can store that email even if you don't have much data. If you are a smaller company, just keep on storing those mails in a folder. So things are possible. There are workarounds. It's not that we need only the new technology only can support us in our privacy journey. It's not that. We should at least start doing these things where things are concerned. Okay. And yes, now, so we discussed 3 steps. The 4th steps, which I would say is, as we discussed in the starting, is third-party contracts. This is very important. So we need to ensure that at least start that discussion with legal teams, with our, all the suppliers who are dealing with, because now when your data inventory is with you, you have list of all suppliers whom your suppliers or your contractors or your third-party agent, logistics, anybody that who is dealing in personal data. You have that details. You have all the department, because see, in different organizations, people handle differently. Maybe in one organization, there is only one department who's, taking care of all the procurements, or everything is going through one. Then it is very easy. So you can just give these clauses to them and they can just upload and things are done. But like in our case, all departments have their own third parties in which they're working with. So you need to educate your SPOC. Then put these clauses in to safeguard your organization, right? So how are they GDPR compliant? So what major things which I have put, please, this is something just as a sample. You need to sit with your audit teams, your legal teams to see whether these are okay for you. But what risk I can, at least shift to the supplier. That is what I've tried to do in these contracts. That if they are handling, if they are my processor, they are my suppliers, they are, handling the personal data. One is they need to give me all flowcharts, how they are handling the privacy. What are their security norms? What are their compliances? How are their employees being treated? They need to sign a non-disclosure as well. How are we shifting the responsibility? If something goes wrong with me as Jaguar because of them, are they going to take the blame for 4% of the annual turnover? Will they pay for it? Or do I need to pay for it? What will be the responsibilities? All that needs to be crystal clear, especially in the case of data centers. I'm saying it again and again. I'm doing a lot of conferences where cloud is concerned. And mind it, cloud is something which works on a shared responsibility model. And most of the people don't know that. What is my responsibility? What is the cloud provider responsibility? So please make sure those clauses are very clear where you are handling personal data at least. How are they? If it is SaaS, then entire responsibility is of the SaaS provider. So you need to see how they are managing your data. If it is a PaaS, then data responsibility lies with you. If it is an IaaS, the data responsibility lies with you. These are the 3 main terms in cloud. Please make sure how they are handling the private data. You really need to look at your cloud providers, because now I think 90% of all work is done in the cloud. So please make sure how you are handling it. And maybe these clauses, these are some of the clauses. If you want to take a snapshot, you can. So these clauses really need to, go in and really will help you at least somewhere to, take care of your risk. And yes, step 5, as I always say, if you're a bigger organization and you don't have the right resources with you, then we should definitely look for a DPO or external consultants and look for these courses which FDPPI is offering, the framework which FDPPI is offering. It's not that I'm saying this because we are connected today because of FDPPI. I genuinely believe that the framework which they are preparing, it's amazing, because what all I've done a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of more things because, studying that framework, but it's very clear. I've studied, I'm an ISO 27001 person also. I've PCI DSS compliant also, but all these are very, they are not so clear and crisp. Where privacy is concerned, we have this FDPPI courses are very clear. Maybe we'll ask Navisar to come up with a course where very generalized privacy is told to people. Not that they need to be consultants or auditors, but that consultants and auditors who are certified by FDPPI, at least we can at least then engage them to get our work done, at least to kickstart the work which we need to do. So these are some of the responsibilities which we had chalked out, that that person should really know that what all responsibilities it should be, that you can call it there's still a debate whether DPO can be a CISO or can it be an external party, internal party. That all will happen. What I am saying to my organization is, why to give a name to somebody? At least I should know that these are responsibilities someone need to take care of. Now, whether it's external or internal, we'll look at it. Okay, these 4 are done by internal, rest is done by external, at least to start with. Then when the law comes, we'll tweak everything. But just to wait and, just wait for the law to come and not do anything in an organization, it doesn't seem like a better, path to go for. So I think that is what I could cover in 40-45 minutes. I hope something is of value. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to attend.
Hi, Mansi, this is Reena.
Hi, Reena.
Hi, this is a very good session and gives a very good perspective on how the approach has been taken by your organization. One question I had was on data retention and the policy. So what was the approach taken? Do you have a data retention policy, and what aspects were considered from defining the retention requirements, and how deletion of data is being handled from the IT perspective?
Mansi, you are on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
So basically, we have a retention policy. We have developed a retention policy, which is a country-specific retention policy, actually, because we are dealing in different countries and different countries have different retention policies. So basically, it is and we have segregated the retention policies as, financial data, because that might be different in different countries. Then you have your, employee data, private data, what we need to do. So these kind of different things are there. Where deletion is concerned, so now all the IT people now see, like I told you earlier, I know my data inventory gives me where all my data is kept and where all, where all that retention and when I need to delete it, right? So that Bible helps the IT people as well. So even if they're taking backups, because that sheet is then filled by IT as well, that where all backups are kept, where all the things are there. So all our now backup processes are revisited, because earlier the backup was, okay, now take this entire backup and just take it. Now what we have done is our backup is date wise. So we can, delete the backup for, like, suppose I have a backup for 5 years. I can say that, okay, just delete it for 1 year and just keep it for 4. So these kind of, we are revisiting our backup policies as well, where IT is concerned. Secondly, we also, for any retention policy to work, we need to have an approval mechanism, right, for IT as well. So there is a complete approval, flow chart which we have developed, that for financial data, where personal data is there, who is the approver, who all responsibilities, who all approve the chain of audit, what is there, and then only IT can delete it. And plus there is an external party which then certifies that yes, this has been deleted and cleaned.
Okay, thanks. So the IT team is actually responsible for execution of the deletion as such, is what you're saying?
IT team is only executing it, but the approvers are not IT. The approvers is the head of the department, so, and the privacy officer.
Okay. Okay. So you
Yeah.
have a DPO designated role also, is it?
Yeah, I am only looking after that right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mansi Sameer Mathur here, very
Hi.
nice presentation. Sorry, please.
Yeah, this is Advocate Lima. I have a small question. As you mentioned regarding cloud data,
Yeah.
what problems you countered as a privacy professional with dealing with cloud servers or cloud locations?
Yeah. So cloud was my major area of concern actually. One was that, as I said, that responsibility matrix. What happens is when the cloud sale was happening, everything they say that is our responsibility. But in cloud also there are three perspectives, as I said. There's a shared responsibility matrix there. So we need to see where our responsibility lies in what we are taking. See, you need to understand in cloud, if you are only taking a data, if you are only taking a server, okay? If you're taking a server on the cloud and you're then putting in your application on it, then it is your responsibility to manage privacy, whereas most of the people don't understand it. That was my major concern. Even the IT people don't understand it. They feel that we have moved it on cloud. Now everything is their responsibility. That was fun. Second is that now all cloud providers, they keep, like they'll tell you we have 99% uptime for your data. Okay. Even if my data center goes down, I am replicating your data somewhere else. Now problem lies in privacy laws. Now what happens is, now this is like a third party transfer, right? Now where are they taking a backup? If it is an EU data, it has to reside in EU only. Suppose it is a sensitive data. But they are taking backup in India maybe, or they're taking it in China. So that is the second question everybody needs to ask the cloud provider. Where is your second, DR setup? And then you need to align it with your privacy law, whether it's in the right zone or not. Like we are working, maybe, we are, our ERP is a SaaS ERP, which is hosted in Oracle in Frankfurt. Now my employee data is there. Now if PDPI comes in, now I need to ensure that Frankfurt data, do I need to bring it here, or whether it's fine, it's, there because it's not sensitive data. So these kind of challenges we face. So that responsibility model and where they're replicating the data. These are the two major challenges in cloud.
Thank you.
Rajesh, you wanted to ask something? Rajesh? Okay, I think he's gone out. I wanted to ask Mansi Sameer Mathur here that
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned
I would
about
like to say-
having an agreement.
Sir, I'm available.
Oh, please carry on. Please carry on.
Good evening, Mansi ma'am. Mansi ma'am, I wanted to understand a lot of unstructured data available on various employees' email ID or their mail server. Okay, so how we able to protect those type of PI data? Mansi ma'am, am I able to give you the my
Yeah.
question quickly?
Yeah, Rajesh, it's very clear.
Thank you.
So, one is your employee training, okay? That what kind of employee trainings you are giving. Second is to secure the data is that you need to have a DLP in place. What we have done, I'll tell you that you need to have a DLP in place where, what happens in DLP is, it is the, data loss prevention. So even if any personal data is riding, in an email, or they're trying to attach that, maybe credit card data or any other sensitive data and sending it to somebody, your DLP will catch it and, not let them send it. Third is that there are now discovery tools available where PII is concerned. Okay. So for all the employee computers, everything, you need to at least get that audit once, that where all that data is lying. It is a very beautiful tools which are coming in where you can run it on your network and find out everything where PII is, whether it's an Aadhaar information, credit card information, anything. So that if you're a bigger organization and you feel that a lot of personal data is lying here and there, that is also very much required.
So you are suggesting there should be a data inventory, tools should be available.
Yeah,
to
see,
verify the things. Yes.
completed, like suppose if it is a smaller organization, I would not suggest that. But yes, if it is a bigger organization where personal data is very much, at play, where you feel that yes, there can be cases where a lot of personal data can be mishandled, then it's always good to have a PII discovery tool run on the network and also have a DLP in place so that you can secure the data. And then this also gives your, organization and the auditor a very, what do you call, a very good feeling that you are taking all the steps necessary. See, the law says that even if you are breached, They're going to audit you and see what all security controls you have. And then they'll decide whether you had taken all steps to ensure safety or not. So at least for that, we need to ensure that we are on the right track.
So
Thank you,
Mansi, a
madam.
related question. How do you actually work to build the privacy culture in the organization? Because it's an evolving thing and there is a lot of work practices which need to be amended by respective departments.
Right.
And it's a journey, right? I mean, even if you implement tools, there will be certain data sitting on certain laptops, and the discovery tool will have a set of predefined rules based on which it operates, keywords and so on, right? So how is this, the repeating
Yeah, so
exercise which is done for the organization? Yeah.
yeah, so like I said in my first 2 slides, one thing which will drive the privacy through culture is it should have a management buy-in and driven from the top. One is that it should be very clear to everybody that this is something which management is driving. Second, which is very important, is as I said, like all departments will have a SPOC, because we 3-4 people cannot handle everything. So it's very easy for you that you need to train that SPOC, and that SPOC will have, what we have done is in his KRA or her KRA, we've given 10 points as a privacy SPOC. So what all actions they are taking to drive privacy in their department. So it is like, small privacy things going on. And then every month we have a meeting of all the privacy, SPOCs available and what they did. And so we get very good points where other, team members or other teams can use that. So it is a collaboration effort, and now that is how it feels. Then every 3 months I do a session with my entire teams. Like I give slots for a week where all the organization people need to join. So HR, if the care is there for people where privacy is concerned, what the best part is now in this first 6 months, what has happened is people are coming and telling me that this is what we can do. So that is something that we are handling personal data. It was not in our inventory because we just missed it because of very small data, and they are adding it to the inventory. So, management buy-in, getting that inventory in place, because once you have the inventory, when people will start writing there and they know it is their ownership, if something goes wrong, the culture will automatically flow. It is same for security. It is same for privacy.
And for these POCs, are they shared roles in the privacy domain, what you're saying?
Yeah, so what we did was we are planning to get their trainings done. So they are from different, like one person is a logistics head. He's looking after, 7 warehouses. We have made him a privacy in charge because he had some background of security. And when we, trained them, he was very good at it. So we made him the privacy SPOC. So they are also learning new things. They'll be certified for ISO 27001 implementer as well as privacy. We are looking for some trainings. So now once they are trained on both the things, they also feel that, they have been elevated to some level. Plus they have 10 marks in their KRA on what they're doing on this topic. So, that really drives the momentum across. The motivation comes.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi,
Mansi. Kamal
Okay,
here.
please go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'll go in after you.
Okay. Hi, Mansi. Sorry, Kamal here. Just asking a very specific thing. Thanks for the presentation. One of the things is that being approached by a very new startup company, what they are doing is they are receiving bulk emails from marketing companies to clean out. Okay, so what they are doing, they are making sure they are ensuring that all the emails are legit and been cleaned out. What do you think should be the correct methodology of them getting consent? Of course, say for example, if company A is sending 10,000 emails to company B to say who have been appointed to do a clean out system and make sure that they are only legit and proper emails verification.
Okay, I'm not sure I understood the question, but what I understand, what we did was like you're talking about the emails which are there with me, like residing for 6-7 years. That's
Correct.
what you're. Okay. So like, see, if they are doing this exercise,
Sorry.
they're
Sorry.
doing. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, there might be. We don't know because what the company has done is they're a marketing company, for example, okay, and
Okay.
they have appointed another smaller company to do verification, email verification. That's what it is. Now, how old the data is that they don't know.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what we did. Actually, we also had a lot of old data with us where our marketing team was concerned. So what we did was we also did it that we shared with all our customers an email saying that this is the data we hold with you, hold from you. And if it is like, we need to retain it. So that we tell them that this is the data we need to retain because of the law. And this is the extra data we hold from you. If you want us to delete it, please let us know. And if they do not send a consent to us, then we have to delete it. If they say that keep it, then it's fine. And if they say delete it, of course we need to delete it. So basically the thing is, I think that company, what they're also doing is that now you need an audit trail, right? You need an explicit consent.
Right.
You might be having some old data with you, but now you don't know whether it's legit or not. So they're
Correct.
just, make sure that it's legit. So that they can show to the auditor that this is the audit trail. We had sent a mail and we got a yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Mansi, this is Tripti here.
Yeah,
I have two questions, so just please bear with me. One is linking legal justification and record retention from a perspective of applicable law. For example, typically in Indian law, Limitation Act for any information or raising a claim is 3 years. And for tax and all, it's 7 years. Now, I'm assuming if it is an employee data or a customer data 3 years, employee data 7 years, because financial information rests with company. Now, if a claim comes, but the law says that you have to delete the personal information, or you can't store it, can I take an approach where I say that we are deleting it for active usage or access, but in the record retention, we retain right to use it for any applicable law issue, because the record retention policy has to be in line with claims that can come in. What happens if in the 3rd year or 4th year that employee comes back to us and then we don't have any personal data in our records because we have deleted it?
If I understand your question correctly, the law doesn't say that if it says you need to delete it, you need to delete it. It says that if there is any legal grounds of processing and you need to retain that data, you need to retain it. Like, see, with employee, I'll take an example of employee. Now, suppose I say that my retention is 7 years, okay? And I delete the data. But as you rightly said, that maybe that employee, there's an employee code, right? So with employee code, I can anonymize and keep the data, at least.
Fair enough.
Right. So with employee code, I can go back with anonymized data. That I can do.
Yes, thanks. I was just double checking if that's a fair approach. And second question is on customer and employee differentiation that you spoke about. I'm glad you picked that, Mansi, because very often individual is individual in the eyes of law. From a data perspective, a data subject, there is no distinction between whether he's an employee, whether he's a customer. It is just the nature of engagement and contract that differs. That is the legal justification, paradigm that we go with. So in such a case, the same benefits we give a customer, that you have this form where you can update, where you can withdraw consent, a couple of forms that you highlighted in your presentation, can the same be extended to employees also? Like when their personal information typically all contracts have it. Yes. When your personal information changes, let us know. But can the same adoption be done there to ease out the process?
What we have done is actually, I mentioned it, I forgot to mention it. That is for the customer, because see, customer does not have access to my HR portal, right? On my HR portal, all employee information is already available and they can just click a button and download it. Or if they want to change it, they can change it. We have to provide it to them as well. That is for sure.
Yes. So at the time when an employee quits, then the consent shall be deemed withdrawn, no?
Yeah. So if they quit, they can use that form which I have put there.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mansi. Thank you. That was a lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mansi, hi, Meena Lal here. See, I'm an in-house counsel, so I can pretty much relate with what you were saying. And of course, we also apply a lot of these retention policies. You see, my sense is just supplementing what you mentioned. As far as data retention is concerned, different laws will have different approach. For example, in Companies Act, you have to retain the data of the investors. So there will be different degree of retention in different laws. If the law is silent about the degree of retention, only then the company's policy will come into the act. For example, if there is a visitor's gate pass system and I'm collecting any data from a visitor, that's purely a policy-based thing. Once the visitor has come and gone and I foresee that he does not need to come back, I must delete the data the very next day. But you see, I also think sometimes that once the data has been deleted, proactively an organization must inform the data subject also that your data has been deleted from my system. So that'll also be, a slightly proactive action.
Yes, we can do that. It is a good suggestion actually. But like visitor data, it depends on, I think, not that it should be deleted every day. I would not agree to
No,
that. Why?
see, I just
Like,
mentioned, I mean,
yeah,
hypothetically, I mentioned it could be tomorrow or yesterday or whatever, 24
yeah.
hours. It
Whatever
could
my
be at
retention
some
policy,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever my retention policy says.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's 90 days, that at least for 90 days I want to keep that data because
Sure.
I want to review, maybe something goes wrong and I want to see. So yeah, but this is a very good point, that should be there in your retention policy. That
Yeah.
visitor data for 90 days.
Mhm.
But yes, or maybe what you're saying is, or maybe rather than sending information to the visitor, we can even put on the outside, like we put that you are under CCTV surveillance. We can
Yeah.
always say that we are storing your data for 90 days for all the visitors, so that at least that notice is there, rather than sending him mail. That can be a second step. That maybe sometimes you're not collecting their email for them to tell, or maybe SMS can be a cost if a lot of visitors are coming, and then
Yeah.
sending them might be a cost. But at least, yes, I agree. This I have also not done. I'll put it there, that where we are saying under CCTV surveillance, there we can put that we are storing your personal data for future purposes, and we might delete it in 90 days or something like that. That is
Yeah.
a good option.
The other thing which comes to my mind is, I'm sorry, I'm being a little longish, but
No, please go.
I think this is a suggestion also which comes to my mind. You see, you mentioned as far as employees are concerned. So we have a portal where, we are asked, yeah, this is your data and please ratify, verify, or change, whatever. Similar thing should be ideally provided to vendors as well, vendors and business partners. So
Right.
that brings the communication at par with employees, and they have the facility of doing it themselves.
There, I would just say one thing, that we are dealing here with personal data, right? Most of our suppliers and all, they will be companies.
Yeah.
So yes, suggestion that they can update
No, but
the
if you
data.
have
For
proprietors,
privacy,
for example, if you had proprietors.
yeah, for privacy, I think proprietors companies, yes, of course they can, but most of us whom we deal with are companies, right? So that doesn't fall in the preview of privacy because it's for personal data. But yes, if it is a personal something, that vendors can be given that access.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mansi, Samir Mathur here. We are over time, but I'll ask just one question. You mentioned about agreement with the cloud vendor, and you mentioned that with IaaS and PaaS, it's not a big issue. But whether it's IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, you mentioned, most of the cloud vendors come with their own ready-made agreements, are hardly willing to shift responsibility or assign new responsibilities.
Right.
So even if you see a flaw in the cloud agreement, one I feel doesn't have much of a choice. How do you handle this issue?
Yeah, so one is awareness, Samir, right? That at least then you should know what you're getting into. And then you need to maintain your security controls there. That is very important, right? You should not be blindsided that they are taking care of it. So if they are not, you need to push it. It's not that if it's a big contract, they will bend their rules for you. We got it changed. But yes, of course, I can understand, like you're just, commissioning a small server and you can't go and, ask them to change the rules for you. But yes, then at least we should know what we're getting into. And then we need to take security measures.
Correct.
Yeah, basically approach from a risk mitigation standpoint, attach it to the contract and say, these are my risks, even though I'm signing it. These are the mitigation plans. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I think we can now come to an end, and I'll request Mr. Arya to propose a vote. Thanks, Mr. Arya.
My video is not coming.
It has come, sir. It has come.
It has come. Okay, I'm not I'm not able to see it myself. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, Mansi. You have been really very, very precise. But yes, you covered many aspects in such a short time, and that is commendable. And what to say, starting from privacy definition to a lot of things you covered up. You can say PCI DSS compliance, employees, customers, okay, and website linked and website linked to other website, Facebook, and all those kind of things. Many new things I also came to know when we are asking somebody to load data to our website, and then if we are referring to Facebook, so we have to have the privacy link to the Facebook privacy policy also. That was a good point I noticed, okay, which somehow I didn't notice earlier. And a lot of other things you have put into our notice today only, okay. And then SAS, PAS, IS, and then these are really a great thing to know. And your knowledge really is very, very great about your subject, and you are seems to be a master on it. Okay, and then I hope that we will be learning more from you, from your experiences in coming time. And thank you all of our participants, and they have been quite patient to hear Mansi. And though her contents were very, very appealing and very, very catchy, and everybody was spellbound when she was speaking. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Naviji. Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Great
Thank you,
Thank you,
session.
everyone. Thank you, Mansi. Thank
Great
you.
session.
Thank you, my